Hello, and welcome to the Heartfelt Clubhouse. I'm your host, the Baby BC, and I'm joined here today. I'm so happy to be joined here today with Greg Oliva. Greg, feel free to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. It's truly a pleasure to join you on this important conversation. And I'm here with Movember. Movember is the leading charity dedicated to changing the face of men's health around the globe. I've been with the foundation for nearly 3 years, but a longtime advocate of mental health and encouraging everyone, not just men, to really be proactive about leading a healthy lifestyle. So really excited to have this conversation and just appreciative of all the great work that you're doing to start important conversations around our health.
Yes, well, thank you so much. It has been a long journey for us to hop on this podcast, just because Movember, like you touched on, you guys are so big, so inspiring, lots of moving parts. What exactly with Movember are you in charge of?
Yeah, so I sit as a member of the fundraising team, and that just really means working with all of our incredible Mo Bros and Mo Sisters across the United States, supporting them on their journey to raise funds and awareness in support of men's health. We have, thousands of incredible community members all across the United States who participate in Movember in a variety of ways. We know here in the United States and globally, men's health is in crisis. And men are dying too young, frankly. And so Movember seeks to really empower men, and in particular young men, to have important conversations and make change on not just a local, but on a global scale, taking on mental health and suicide prevention, prostate cancer, and testicular cancer. These are three of the leading causes of death for men globally, and we want to reduce the number of men that are dying too young. So I feel privileged to be in a position where every day I get to chat with amazing, dedicated leaders in their own communities who recognize that this is a challenge that affects everyone, right? No matter who you are, you've got a man in your life who's probably struggling with some form of physical or mental well-being. And Movember exists to create the space where we can talk about those challenges and really focus on how we can prevent and intervene early so that many of the challenges we as men face with our health don't reach a crisis point, and we can continue to lead happy lives that are filled with love and support. So that's just a little bit about my work.
Yes, and I will say, like, you guys do such an amazing job of being all encompassing and providing that safe space for people. Like, for instance, you and I first connected probably about a year ago, along with someone else, and it was in the early stages of the Heartfelt Club. Like, we hadn't launched anything. I was just doing my research, and I stumbled upon your website and was blown away by all of your initiatives. And you guys were willing to hop on that Zoom call and kind of guide me in this journey. So again, it's like full circle for me. Like, I'm so happy to have you on a podcast. This is going to be great. With that being said, one key aspect of the Heartfelt Club and Movember is wanting to start this conversation young, right? Like, get people comfortable. Why do you feel like that's such an important piece of destigmatizing men's health and men's mental health?
Yeah, that's a great question. When we look at the statistics behind men's health and specifically mental health, in the US, 4 out of 5 suicides are men. And suicide is the leading cause of death for men aged 18 to 34. Here in the United States, over 100 young men take their own lives every day. So let that sink in. The loss of life and of young lives every day is staggering to me. And like I mentioned, I've been with the foundation a number of years. That continues to eat at me. How there are so many young men out there that reach a point where they feel just entirely overwhelmed. And we know that by intervening and reaching these young men early in their lives, we can have a lasting impact. And so we focus particularly on young men with the message that, and you're hearing this a lot more in today's culture than I think we ever have, but it's okay to not be okay, right? And we provide a range of tools that allow men to take action by opening up. That we have a notion here, talking saves lives. And I've seen that prove itself to be true time and again, where, conversations can be so powerful. Knowing the right question to ask. We have a model that informs a lot of the work that we do, and how we advocate men to take care of their own mental health. It's called the ALEC model, and asking is the A in that ALEC model. It stands for ask, listen, encourage action, and then check back in. And asking, right, is so important. What is the right question to ask? How can you be there as a first step for the men in your life? So, when we look at young men, especially in the last couple of years with the amount of social isolation that so many of us have experienced, building social connections that are protective factors against depression, anxiety, and even suicide. You're seeing it in all facets of American life and global life. Young men are struggling, and so we as an organization feel it's imperative to focus on reaching those young men early, and in a way that is accessible and digestible, so that it's not something they think about once, but mental health is an ongoing thing for each of us. Some days we feel better than others. We want to make sure that when you're not feeling your best, you feel empowered, and you feel as though you have the tools and the resources and the support to get through challenging times.
Yes, and that was beautifully put, like very, very well said. I think you touched on some really key points, like one of which I will say, anyone who watches this, go to Movember's website, because it is endless. Like the resources you guys have, that ALEC model, I've actually, as people reach out to me, or reach out to the Heartfelt Club, we direct them to that model. We direct them to those resources, because it really is, I think a lot of times it can be scary to initiate that conversation, and scary to kind of acknowledge that maybe you're worried about someone in your life. But just getting the ball rolling is as simple as, really digging in on that "how are you" question, or "hey, I see you have a lot on your plate. How are you juggling everything?" And then just kind of rolling from there. I think that's a really good point to touch on. And then also, I know that you've been with Movember, you touched on like 3 years. Movember's been up and running for like however many, like 20, I want to say, like just forever. Yeah. How have you seen like mental health kind of become more accepted? Because I feel like even since you touched on the social isolation that we all went through, I feel like that kind of was a catalyst for a lot of people to acknowledge their mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. And you touched on so many great things there. So I'll do my best to unpack everything. First, talking about mental health, it's such a complex problem, right? Every individual has unique factors influencing them. We know for men in particular, there are situational stressors, and you can point to a lot of them over the last 2+ years that can combine with what is more a traditional lack of social connection and increased isolation that can significantly increase the risk of significant mental health challenges and ultimately suicide. So there is this sort of notion that as men, as you alluded to, it's not acceptable to talk about when you're not feeling well. That pertains to both our physical and mental well-being. There's so many studies that indicate women are far more likely to go to the doctor when they have a medical issue compared to men, and it's the exact same case when you look at mental health challenges. So the data is there; it backs it up that men don't seek out proactive support in the same way that a lot of women do, and so with that, what can we do? And to your point, over the last couple of years, why has mental health taken such a prominent role in the dialogue within this country and globally? And Movember originally started as a foundation that focused on prostate cancer. You were exactly right. We were founded in 2003, so we're in our 19th year now. It was in Australia that we were originally founded, focused on prostate cancer, then expanded to more men's health cancers, testicular cancer. And within the last 6-7 years, we've really focused and shifted a lot of our priorities, not necessarily entirely away from the cancer space. We still do a great amount of work in biomedical cancer research, online digital health tools, clinical registries. So that portfolio of support is still existing. But there's been a really strong shift into looking at men's health holistically, because we know that they impact one another. Your mental health is so closely tied to your physical well-being. You can't look after one without the other. And I think you're right that there has been an even greater focus on the mental well-being of everyone, because we've all experienced, it's been a collective experience of struggle. It's such a shared experience. Anybody you talk to over the last 2 years has had some form of struggle with how they're feeling emotionally. And I think that, for us, we feel like the best way to accomplish our mission of stopping men dying too young is to look at men's health through that holistic lens. And that's why I think for us as a foundation, we've prioritized mental well-being and suicide prevention, because it's just as much, if not more, of a driving factor of enabling men to live happy, healthy, and long lives as any other factor out there, particularly for young men. So we know with our mission and what our focus is that we need to be in that space. And you've seen a number of great tools come out from Movember over the last couple of years. We've launched a great tool on how to manage difficult conversations called Movember Conversations, again, available through the website. There are tools for young men who have just become fathers. We know that that's a really critical point in men's lives, or, oh my gosh, now I'm a dad and it's challenging, and there's a resource for those guys. So we know that there's particular instances that we can focus on, but as a foundation, our approach is, all right, men's health is a holistic problem. We want to look at the whole man, their mental and their physical well-being.
Yes. I was going to say, I saw that on your website, and I think that's such a cool thing to kind of state. And those new dads are going to just really appreciate that, because it's building that generation right away of talking about mental health and like having that open space for the next generation.
Right.
So that is super, super cool. I do have a statistic here I'm curious about your opinion on. So volunteering in the United States is substantially more common among women than men. According to a survey, on average, 30% of women are more likely to volunteer than men. And I know in June, it is Men's Health Month. Movember is so big on that, volunteering, doing those moments, hosting those moments. How do you feel about this statistic? Have you kind of seen this in action?
Sorry, just to clarify, volunteering, you mean like volunteering for charitable work, or?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so that's my first time hearing that statistic. I think, candidly, I am not surprised by that statistic. Again, this goes towards the notion of men typically laboring under this stereotype that it's not manly to seek help or to provide help. It's this sort of like notion that, all right, well, whatever's going on, like, you got to tough it out. Hey, how are you doing? Good. I'm good. That's the end of the conversation. Women, in the same way they're more engaged with their own health, I think it doesn't surprise me that they're more engaged typically with helping, willing to step up and help others. That's something that we need to change. And I think that fits perfectly into the narrative that Movember is trying to shift, right? Where let's let's not delay helping ourselves and helping others. There needs to be a greater emphasis, and you'll see this through a lot of the key messaging that we push, on taking that first step in action, whether it's starting a conversation, whether it is signing up to volunteer at a local organization, asking a deeper question than, hey, how are you? Good. How are you? Good. Right? Like, that's all, I think, very much tied to this same toxic notion that it's not manly to, just to engage with your emotions and to admit when you need help and to be willing to offer help. There were, in a similar way, you cited the statistic, we conducted a study during the pandemic, and it showed that a significant portion of men are unwilling to ask for help, but many more are willing to provide help. They just don't know how to do it, right? Yes. So there's clearly the gap where there's a bunch of guys out there screaming, saying, I really need support. I don't feel supported. There's a bunch of guys out there saying, oh, I want to support my friends. I don't know how to. So there's a gap, right? And how do we empower everybody to fill that need and to support one another? So thank you for sharing that. I wish I was more surprised than I am. And I just think it goes to say that there's still a lot of really important work that we need to do.
Yes, completely. And I totally agree. I think we as a whole, like society as a whole, we do want to help, and like everyone wants to feel seen and heard. It's just not having those tools and human beings kind of being afraid of the unknown. So as we have, amazing charities and foundations like Movember, as Heartfelt continues to grow, resources, like you said, are becoming more accessible. So knowledge is power. I think this is a great time to do our calls to action. I will go first. So my call to action, if you haven't, go ahead and hop over to Movember. I will drop the link. It will all be hyperlinked. Check it out and get a little bit more power, get a little bit more knowledge. Check out that talking ALEC model. Is that what we're calling it?
Yep.
Okay. Check out the model and see if you can apply it to a friend in need, or just see if you can test it out. Give it a dry run, see how it feels. If there's any discomfort, feel free to DM us at the Heartfelt Club, and we'll hopefully try and answer those questions. Otherwise, we can always provide you those resources.
Oh, I love that. That's exactly the type of action we want people to take, right? On our end, so Movember's goals, we want men to live longer, happier, and healthier lives. On average, men are dying nearly 7 years earlier than women, largely for preventable reasons. So how do we change that? How do we encourage men to step up and take control of their health? So at Movember, we are best known for our annual campaign where we encourage men to grow mustaches and use those mustaches as a walking billboard to raise funds and awareness around the critical key areas of men's health that we focus on. You do not have to be follically gifted in order to participate. You certainly can grow your mustache, but if you head over to Movember.com, you can sign up to participate. And participating essentially means that you want to be part of the solution, whether it's raising money, whether it's raising awareness, starting those conversations that we've talked about. All of that is a critical piece to ultimately solving and being a part of the solution around why men are dying so young here in this country. So you can grow a mustache. We have a great challenge that a lot of our community members take throughout the year, and it's our Move Challenge. We encourage men and women to walk, run, bike, however you like to get out and move around, 60 miles during the course of a month. Those 60 miles are representative of the 60 men who take their own lives every hour around the world. Globally, a man is taking his life every minute around the world. So you and I have been chatting here for close to 20 minutes. That's 20 lives lost to suicide, 20 male lives. So take that Move Challenge. Again, we've talked about the importance of your physical and mental well-being and how they're so closely connected. I take the Move Challenge every Movember with my mustache. It feels good to get out and move around, and you're moving for a mission. The other way a lot of folks participate is by hosting a fun virtual or in-person event. We've seen the popularity of virtual events, rise significantly over the last couple of years. But actually getting together, assuming that it's safe physically with your friends, is good for you. I love providing this piece of advice and encouraging people to take action. Hanging out with people who make you feel good is actually scientifically good for you. It doesn't just feel good, it is healthy. So remember that when you are feeling down. Social connections are a powerful tool against depression and anxiety. So those events can be fundraising events. They can be events that are just designed to foster social connection. Whatever it is, getting people together and leaning into that feeling is incredibly important. Regardless of how you want to participate in Movember, whether it is signing up, whether it is growing your mustache, whether it's donating, or whether it is, to your point, just leveraging some of our tools to have conversation. There's a great exercise that I like to facilitate with folks, where first you think of a couple of individuals that have really supported and empowered you. You write them down, and you think of the great actions and supportive messages that they've provided you. You reflect on that. And then you think about 2 or 3 individuals that you've done the same for, that you feel like, oh, I feel good about reaching out to my uncle or reaching out to my buddy from college who I haven't seen. And I knew that they were struggling, and it made a difference. I could tell that it made a difference in their well-being, and that's something I'm proud of. You think about that. And then the third bucket is the most important. You think about someone in your life that might need help and hasn't asked for it, because we know it's hard to ask for help. I grew up in a family of psychologists, and I still was nervous about asking for help. It's a natural human condition. We want to be strong. We want to hold things in. So think about someone in your life that you should connect with, that it's been too long, and everybody's got someone, especially given the challenges that COVID-19 has presented in terms of getting together. There is someone in everyone's life who you're overdue to reconnect with. And there's someone in your life who needs to be connected with, right? We know that these issues are very prevalent. So think about that. And if there's a key takeaway that I would encourage folks to take and to act upon, it's reach out to that person and have a conversation with them, because you have no idea how powerful that might be and how necessary it might be for their own well-being. So I think I just went through the entire Movember remit with you. So there's a lot to dig into there, but ultimately it's all about fostering connections. And Movember is a grassroots organization at its core, and we're made up of, we're only as powerful as every individual who takes action.
Yes. And I will say that I participate every June in that, I'm sorry, what is it called? To get moving?
Oh, the Move Challenge.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes.
I participate every June in that Move Challenge. I do it without a mustache, but I still do it. And it's great. It's a really good way to, get your day going and kind of recenter and refocus on your own mental health and supporting an amazing cause. Now, I'm kicking myself for not asking you this.
Yes.
But how are you today?
Oh, well, I appreciate that question. I'm doing well. I think, this week has been an emotional week, I think, for our country. With the tragedy that's unfolded in Texas, I think it's hard to move past that so quickly. I have been processing, as I know a lot of folks have been, and that's been sitting heavy with me. I don't really think I have the appropriate words to describe exactly how I'm feeling. But I know that there's got to be change. The violence in this country is something that we can't tolerate, we can't grow numb to, and we've got to make a difference about it. So that's where my mind's been at most of this week. My wife and I have had some really emotional conversations about it, as I know a lot of families have, especially families with young children. So that's, Movember wants to be a part of the solution in that space as well. We know a lot of these school shootings are conducted and carried out by young men. That's what the statistics show, right? And so that's our demographic that we're trying to reach. Obviously, there's a piece of this that is related to legislation, but there is a piece of this that is related to reaching young men who might be struggling. And so Movember has a part to play in that. We're committed to doing that. I feel proud to be at an organization that is committed to doing that. But to answer your question, I think it's been a challenging week for myself and for a lot of individuals throughout this country, because it's something that the human brain, I think, really struggles to comprehend and understand. So that's where I've been at. How are you?
Yes, I'm actually very thankful that you touched on that, because same, that heaviness is, I just started a new job as well, and a lot of the women in the office do have children, so we've been having those discussions of the same kind of caliber as you. Overall, I would say I'm okay. It's just that processing. My form of processing is journaling. So I've been doing a lot of journaling, and I'm stepping into therapy again next week, which I'm stoked about. Oh, I'm so excited. But overall, I would say I am probably like a 6 or 7 out of 10, just with regard to the heaviness as well.
Yeah.
And again, very, very thankful to have you on this podcast. Movember is an all-encompassing charity. You guys are so impressive. Keep fighting the good fight. I know it's you're going to be faced with such hard days and times when things like this occur, and it can look bleak, but you are the catalyst for so many other things. You are the catalyst for the Heartfelt Club, and you're touching so many more lives than you can probably even fathom, even though you probably have some awareness of the amount of people you touch through Movember. So again, thank you so much for joining us in the Heartfelt Clubhouse. It truly is an honor. I'm stoked for this upcoming June and getting my run in every day. So thank you for providing me that space and joining us in the Clubhouse.
Oh, of course. And thank you for, in the Heartfelt Club, for being an advocate for change, for really putting yourself out there as someone who is passionate about the issues that we've discussed today. It's because of people like you that Movember exists. We are only able to fund the programs that we do and launch the promotional campaigns that we run because of the hundreds of thousands of people globally who know just how important it is to advocate on behalf of men's health. And so I just want to thank you for creating this space for me, for allowing me to share, for creating a safe space to be vulnerable. I think that's such an important piece of all these conversations we encourage people to have. And as we close, encourage you to continue having those important conversations. Don't put them off. Asking is always the first step in being there for someone. So the questions that you've posed throughout our conversation today are incredibly powerful to me. There's a physical feeling I get after every conversation like this, that is empowering. And I just want to thank you for that. And as we move into Men's Health Awareness Month, and then closer and closer to mustache season, Movember will continue to be here to support all the incredible men in our lives. And it's a privilege for me to be able to be a part of it. So thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. It makes me feel so good. Now everyone go out there and be more heartfelt.
Woo!
As always, if you or someone you know is in crisis, to speak with someone immediately, contact the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 1-800-273-2855. That's 1-800-273-TALK. Contact Lifeline Crisis Chat or contact the National Alliance on Mental Illness, or NAMI, at 1-800-950-6264, or text NAMI, NAMI, to 741741. Thank you, and don't forget to be more heartfelt.